Hey guys, welcome back to the Schmoedown Respin presented by Cinetopical. I'm Nate here on the desk as always with Strange Wang. This week on the Schmoedown Respin, we'll be discussing the following topics. Jeff Snyder thinks he's the GOAT, and we have opinions on it. Sam Levine hasn't been appearing in his matches. Turns out he's just been working. We'll be talking about all the trades and free agency pickups. We'll give our predictions on next week's match as well as our analysis of this past week's match. And proud to announce, we have a special exclusive interview with the Dungeon Man himself, John Kaiser. But before we get into that, Strange Wang, I would love to hear your thoughts on the upcoming tournaments.
Personally, I could care less about the IG tournament. We talked about that in past Schmoedown respins, so go watch the news for those and hear our thoughts. But I think the IG tournament, the Star Wars tournament being exclusively to Twitch, I think that's excellent. Make us go over there and watch these matches. You're going to have a bunch of people who love Star Wars over there watching these matches. So Star Wars pool isn't that full that we know of. You know, we've seen competitors go in there and not score any points. So I think to grow that league over there from the ground up on Twitch, which you're trying to grow from the ground up to, I think that's exciting, and I love that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited about the Intergeekdom tournament. I'm glad that it's still happening and they found a way to make it work. I think that we are getting more and more powerful players in the Intergeekdom, so I'm excited to see them because it just means that you're forced to have tough opponents in the earlier rounds. You're not going to get these cupcake matches early on like they used to. I also am excited for the Star Wars match on Twitch. I think Twitch is a great platform for this Schmoedown to try to use some and utilize. It adds more revenue stream, and while we're stuck having to do streaming and not having live matches or in-studio matches, it's a great way to go with that as well. So, great choices. The free agency pickups. So one of the biggest stories here, we have some celebrities finally joining the Schmoedown after years of talking about this. Obviously, they've had celebrities just kind of pop up here and there. Maybe not even necessarily celebrities, but actors. But so start off with one of the big ones. The Rockstars pick up Chris Jericho. Strange Wang, you are a huge wrestling fan. I would love to hear what you think about this.
I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
He's very good at what he does, but he does a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
He has a podcast. Podcasts usually take around 2 hours. You have to get people on the podcast. You have to talk to their people. We don't know how long that takes.
Mm-hmm.
He has a family. Dude's got like 9 kids or something like that.
Jeez.
So when he's not in the bedroom making more kids, he's got to take care of these kids. And when he's not doing that, he's got the podcast. He's got to get people on the podcast. When he's not doing that, he has to work out because he is a wrestler. You have to drive to these tapings. You have to work out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot you got to do for wrestling. And when he's not wrestling, he's an actual rock star. Him and his fan Fozzy, they travel around the world. So how much time is this dude going to put in the studying?
Yeah.
How much time is he going to put with the rock stars? And I know the argument is he might be like Ethan Irwin. He might just have this knowledge for loving movies.
Yeah.
That only gets you so far.
Right.
Look at Ethan Irwin. Did that get him a title defense? I don't know.
Yeah.
He didn't have the title very long. So is it a good... It brings a lot of hype to the rock stars.
Right.
Hype does not equal points.
Right. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, my thing is just like, what does this guy know already? You know? I don't know.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I mean, so it's an interesting pickup. Part of me just has to wonder, because obviously, if someone like this comes in and says, I want to be on the Schmoedown, they're not going to say no.
I can't wait for this match, though.
That brings an immense amount of attention to the Schmoedown. Obviously, this is a good thing for the Schmoedown. And I think it was just a matter of who has a spot on their roster that we can stick this guy on to make sure he's in. You know, so I don't think it necessarily has much to do with the rock stars themselves.
No, Christian said this was all Roxy.
Really?
All Roxy Schreier.
Maybe. Molly Damon picked up by the usual suspects. Suspects. I think that's a great pick. Obviously, she knows a shit ton about Star Wars. That's going to be their Star Wars competitor. We might see her pop up in the Intergeekdom. I don't know how well she's going to do that on a broad spectrum. But who better than to take down the champ than his own wife? So, I love that. I think that's a great pickup. Movie Mance. Scott Mance. Yes! Going to the Burning Droogs. I am thrilled. I love Scott Mance. I am so excited that he is back in the Schmoedown. I cannot wait for this. I am praying for a rubber match between him and John Roca. I think Roca would absolutely destroy him, but I still love Scott Mance, and I can't wait to hear that little high-pitched scream.
I don't know. Like, he just wants to see the world burn. That's what they've been saying. Robert, I don't know how well of a pickup this is. Yes, he knows a lot. But does he study? Probably not. And with the character work and stuff like this, one of the reasons why he left, like the fans and the characters, he's a very easy guy to get to because he's the nicest person in the world. He doesn't have a bad bone in his body. So it's very easy to get under his skin and hurt his feelings.
Yeah.
So will players take advantage of that before a match? Will they try to play mind games with him to throw him off his game? I don't know if that's the best strategy. I don't know if I want someone on my faction like that, where you can just throw them off their game so easy. Would I want him to be my best friend? Of course. A faction mate? Not so much.
I just hope we get some rookie that comes in that doesn't know anything about him and gives him movie release dates on an opponent's choice.
I don't think that happens in the game anymore, buddy.
Perry Nemiroff picked up by the Mouthy Mercs. I can't really read your handwriting, but I'm pretty sure that's what it said. So that's interesting to me. Ever since the SEN was created and they left Collider, it just felt like, I know that Christian has his friends over there and stuff, but it's always just felt weird when there's been interaction from people between those two big channels since then. Obviously, Perry, movies are her job, but we have seen other people on the Schmoedown where movies were their job. She's spotty at best in her short time that she's been around the Schmoedown, but she's a name that people know and recognize.
Well, that doesn't equal to good matches. So, and Corey, I don't think he's going to touch Manager of the Year or points-wise either.
Mm-hmm.
So, I could care less. But just the news.
Fair enough. To go through the next couple, we have Sabina Graves going to the Usual Suspects, Adam Collins going to Corruptions, Sean Gerber going to Swag, Frank Moran also going to Swag, Andres Galejo, I think it is. I don't think it's a hard G. Goes to the Dungeon. Sabrina goes to the Finstock Exchange.
That one is interesting.
Because
people, I don't know anything about her, but people's been saying she's like the next Paulo Yama.
Mm-hmm.
She just has this wealth of knowledge at such a young age. And I think when you put her on a team with veterans like Roka and them, you can get her to like, hey, what should I study? Since you know all these like broad, like wide categories about movie knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You got him, you got Dan Merle, you got the GOAT at studying, Ben Bateman. So whatever she thinks that she's weak in, or she doesn't know she's weak in, those guys will definitely help her out. It's a very interesting pick for the Finstock Exchange.
Yeah, I'm like super interested to see where that goes as well. Obviously a team full of absolute powerhouses right now, so it'll be interesting to see where she fits into that. Next up, we have Late to the Party, obviously very, very popular reactors among the Schmoedown community, but they get split up here, which is really interesting. So Robert from Late to the Party is going to the Usual Suspects, and Vanessa is going to the Den. They weren't terrible from what I remember in their Schmoedown matches. I think they both have a wealth of knowledge. They, when you watch enough trailers and you see all those title cards pop up over and over again, especially when it comes to new releases, you get a lot of questions right. I know that's definitely true for us. Anytime a new release category comes up, I'm like, we watched the trailer for that. Oh, we watched the trailer for that. Oh, we watched the trailer for that. So I think that's a good pickups for either of those factions. I know a lot of people are upset to see them split up, and I'm sure that they have their own feelings about it as well, but are probably also excited at the prospect of getting to face each other. And
you can say no, so they both agreed to go to these factions.
Sure. Next up, maybe the biggest news out of all of this, after literal years of conversation about this finally happening, Kevin Smith, the Kevin Smith, has signed with the Quirky Mercs. What does it mean?
I think Corey, he's just got him just to say Kevin Smith's on my team. Again, he hasn't showed us what he can do as a manager.
Right.
I don't think Kevin Smith really... how many times he's going to play. Same thing with Chris Jericho. He's a busy, busy man. That's why we haven't got him on the Schmoedown yet. So will we get a match out of him? We might get a few. Who knows? Again, I think this was just like, hey, I love your movies. Be on my team.
I disagree on that one. I feel like Kevin Smith, just from like I follow him on Twitter. He's an avid tweeter. I think we're going to see him a lot more than we'll see Chris Jericho, personally. And I don't think that. So Kevin Smith has been in talks for the Schmoedown for a while. He's been aware of the Schmoedown for a while.
Yeah.
This is something that he's wanted to do. And I don't think that if he was ready to put an actual, like some level, I'm not going to say we're going to see this guy in a match once a month or every 3, he might play 3 matches this year, but a lot of people are only going to play 3 matches this year. And that's not really any more than a lot of other competitors. I don't think that he would have agreed to come do this if he wasn't ready to put like some sort of time commitment into this. So not only do I think that we're going to see him in a couple matches, I think we're going to see him walking out with his team some. He seems like the kind of guy where when he gets into something, he's into it. So I'm excited about that prospect. I think we're going to see a decent amount of him, and I think this could be one of the things that really pushes the Schmoedown to the next level. There's always a next level. It's already great, but there's always a next level. Doug Benson going to the usual suspects, and then that was it for the free agents.
We have on Schmoedown backstage, we have Jeff Snyder saying he's the GOAT. Your thoughts?
That's absolutely absurd. On to this week's match. This week we had Stacey Howard, who is currently sitting at 5-5 in singles, versus Eric Zipper, who is undefeated. He is 1-0 before this match, at least in singles division. Rockstars versus the Dungeon. Pre-game, again, maybe this is just the thing for people to say now, but Eric Zipper, much less deserving than Jeff Snyder, declares that he's the next Dan Murrell.
As he's dressed up as the dude. Which, when have we ever seen Dan Murrell do an entrance?
Other than the 5 Horsemen reveal.
Yeah,
that's complete. Like, it's absolutely nothing. That notion is absolutely ridiculous. Eric Zipper has a long, long way to go before he even remotely starts to talk about that.
I did enjoy this.
Yeah.
Because it did kind of get under my skin. And it made me more invested in him, in the match in general, because I want to see him lose even more. So whatever Kaiser is doing with the Zipper, with their promos and stuff, great promo work.
Yeah, and that has been honestly one of the best things about the Dungeon all year is Kaiser cutting promos. Round 1, we got
and singing. A little single one they did was great too.
Well, anyways, round 1 we had a challenge on question 3 because Roxy says that Stacey Howard could not hear the countdown for the question and couldn't get her repeat in time. The challenge is upheld. She gets her own 1-point question and ends up getting it right. Now, ultimately, when you look at the final score of this game, it wouldn't have mattered unless, she misses that point. Maybe your confidence gets shaken. But regardless, great challenge by Roxy Stryer. What are your thoughts on it?
I think that's one of the most ridiculous things to challenge on ever, because it was quiet in the studio and she was just too focused in thinking. So I think however she got that blows my mind. But we said it last time Roxy Stryer had a match. We don't know. I said I didn't know she was going to be confident enough to say, hey, we're challenging this, and put the cheerleading stuff aside. The cheerleading stuff is great. The competitors talk about how much it helps them before the match, but in the match, how much does she help? And this, she was like, I don't, challenge it anyways. So she has to think about it, but she does have enough confidence to challenge and see this stuff in the match. So for me as a competitor, I see that she can do this. She can help before the match and during the match and after the match,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it makes her, this match shows how good of a manager she is.
Yeah, agreed.
Even though I think the challenge is outrageous. But
if Tom Dagnino had made that challenge, you would not say that.
Yeah, I would be like, he hustled the shit out of him. That's what she did. She hustled him.
Zipper has a 2-point lead, 7-5 going into round 2. Stacey Howard faltering a little. You really don't ever know what you're going to get from her. I wrote that before I saw the end of the match. So round 2, Zipper defers to Stacey for the first spin, and she ends up hitting the opponent's choice, but she goes 4 for 4 on the Paul Thomas Anderson category that Zipper gives her. Only has to check multiple choice too, and hits all 3 of them. So Zipper goes to the wheel. He hits new releases. Kaiser steps in. They talk for a second. He decides to keep it. He hits 3 out of 4, but gives up a 1-point steal to Stacey Howard, who completely guessed the answer. But that being said, Zipper still has the 13-12 1-point lead going into round 3, and that is where it gets really interesting. Stacey's 2-point is a Brad Pitt question. She easily nails it, so it goes back over to Zipper, who has his 2-point in action adventure, which he easily nails as well. Back to Stacy for the three-pointer, which is in comedies. She struggles to pull it, but eventually just throws John Hughes out there and gets it. I don't think this one was a guess. I think that she knew it. She legitimately looked like she was trying to pull that out of her head the whole time.
She said before the match she doesn't guess. She like takes all the context clues and puts them together and has an educated guess.
Right.
Roxy says she didn't guess. And she's like, educated answer. And it's like, no, you want to say guess.
Yeah. Right. So she forces it back to Zipper for his three-pointer. It's in the crime movies. He gets it. So it's back for Stacy for her five-pointer. This is an extraordinarily good match.
Yeah.
She has to hit this or it's all over. Her five-pointers in fantasy sci-fi. She burns her last two repeats and just throws Anthony Hopkins out there because he has an epic cool voice and is white and would be in that movie. That is the definition of context clues. Like, there are maybe 3 actors who fit that bill and would have been good casting, and she ends up getting it right. She's obviously ecstatic. Zipper's just pissed, obviously, because now he has to answer his five-pointer or he loses the match, and he can't pull it out of the 1980s. 1880s, wow. So Stacey Howard ends up being the winner against all freaking odds in this thing. Obviously, the big talk of the post-match interview is it guessing? Does she know these things? Like, does she have more knowledge than she thinks she knows and then just ends up coming up with it? Or are some of these just legit guesses? What do you think?
I think it's an educated guess. There's a difference between a guess and an educated guess. So I think it's a great way to play the game. I think more people should do that instead of panicking, like Draco said.
She stays so cool. I mean,
so I think she's a great competitor, and this match just shows it. I haven't seen tension from anything, a match or anything, since after Hitchcock movies, you know. So when they said this may be match of the year, I couldn't agree more. It's definitely a contender as of now, of course.
Yeah, so Zipper, despite the loss, still actually played a pretty great game.
Yeah.
He hit some really, really, really difficult questions. Should we be giving him more credit as a player after this match?
I think now you definitely do, because even before, Kaiser was like, the Z-Man, he's all right. Well, we got him in the dungeon studying, and the studying paid off. Now, when people play him, you have to know he's going to score a high game, and you can't take this guy lightly anymore.
Yep.
Especially with Kaiser on the mic, who's going to try Rocky before and during the match. That's a great team.
Yeah, despite the tough loss, Zipper definitely made a statement, I feel like, to the league with this match. He is definitely a lot better than we've given him credit for. I don't know if he's been studying or if he just has more confidence now. Probably a combination of the two, but he definitely is looking a lot sharper than he has in the past. Stacy moves to 6-5, now has a winning record in the singles division. Zipper breaks even at 1-1.
Batting 500.
Batting 500. But speaking of John Kaiser, we now have an exclusive interview with the man himself. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, very special interview for today. Please welcome to the Schmoedown Respin, the Inner Geekdom champion, Kevin Smets.
Now, what kind of operation you guys running here?
What is this? Kaiser, what are you doing here? We're supposed to have Smets.
I know. And I also know I didn't see $53 in the Dungeon's offshore bank account either. We're not starving artists over here. I got a pig and Eric Zipper to feed.
Man, do you see this green screen? We can't afford $53 interviews.
Since I'm on the show already, and I see great promise and potential in you two guys, I'll answer 2 questions of yours for this interview. But when that cue ball Christian Harloff starts talking about the show and starts sending you some dough, don't forget about this day.
All right, fair enough. Since you're here, we'll go ahead with the interview. Kaiser, being Smets' manager, how do you feel about the upcoming Inner Geekdom tournament?
I have Robert Parker in my stable, which means easy points. Also, I'm a firm believer of keeping in the family like Robert Meyer Burnett.
You know, Kaiser, I am actually glad you're here because we've kind of always wanted to ask you, where exactly did you find a dungeon in L.A.?
Well, you know, after all the R. Kelly stuff happened, well, a lot of them popped up along the Los Angeles area. It was pretty easy to find one then. Now, finding one that doesn't smell like piss is the problem. Zipper, the Z-Man, he has a special love for Bed Bath & Beyond's candle aisle. And because of him, it knocked out the smell pretty quickly. It knocked it out just like our boy Robert, the Spider Parker's going to knock out everyone in the IG tournament.
Well, Kaiser, thanks for showing up, I guess.
This channel is something special, so all you guys need to like, comment, share, all that stuff, and subscribe.